Gym in the middle of the Mission Bay neighborhood of San Francisco. It's got the NBA's largest scoreboard at 9,500 square feet.
Wow.
It has got everything you could possibly want and well worth the $1.6 billion price tag.
Well,
all privately funded, by the way.
Well, number one, I really admire the Warriors because, you know, these NBA, these professional sports owners have been ripping these fans off forever, making them pay for the arena. I admire the Warriors for doing their own thing.
You see,
that's the first thing. The second thing, Kevin Durant must have really hated Draymond to lead this thing.
Yes.
But this thing is awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's spectacular. We'll be showing it off as the night goes on. That's game 2 of our doubleheader. As we welcome you to San Francisco, everybody, Ernie Johnson here, along with Charles Barkley and Kenny the Jet Smith.
Special guest.
Yes, the commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, is here. It's good to see you, sir. And we have much to talk about, and we will do that in 1 second. But we have to tell you why you're not seeing Shaquille O'Neal here on the set tonight. Basically, the big fella who is I've described as the biggest kid in the world, his heart is breaking tonight. He said his world revolves around his brother and 2 sisters, and he lost one of his sisters this morning, far too early, at the age of 40, from cancer. Aisha Harrison Jex had been battling the illness for the last 3 years, and now Shaquille is back in Orlando to be with his family. She has a son, Bryce, and I'm trying to put into words the way Shaquille has reacted to this, and he's struggling. And when he struggles, we struggle with him because he's one of our brothers, and we feel for him tonight. Aisha graduated from FAMU. That's where she got her bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and she will be laid to rest in a military cemetery, and it'll be right next to Sergeant Philip Harrison. And you've heard Shaquille talk in the past about he's the man who made Shaq the man he is, and the professional he is, and the Hall of Famer he is. Hearts are breaking in Shaq's family and in our family as well. And it's tough to move on from that, but we will shortly. But this is real life stuff.
I want to say this. Obviously, you know, Shaq has been our partner for a number of years, and we feel for him. But I want to just give a special shout out to his mom, Miss Lucille, who's best friends with my mom, and for 30 years. And when my mom passed away, she came and spent her last few days with my mom. So I just want to give Miss Lucille a hug and tell her I love her, and what she did for my mom at the end, her and Martha Corman, the other triplet. And I can never thank them enough, and I feel for her and Shaquille, and the rest of the family also.
Yes, and Shaq has a lot of nicknames, the big Aristotle, you know, Superman, but he's also the big family guy. We always see his kids, his family, always around. Difficult. One of the most difficult things about being close to someone and working with them this many years, you get to know them and their family and their friends. So you hurt so much more, just as much as you have the pain, just as much as you have the joy. And you get to experience both with them. And so that's part of being a family, experiencing the joy and the pain.
And I'll just add, we always talk about the NBA as a family. And it's, to your point, it's times like this when we're all together. And we've all known Shaq's mom, Lucille, since he came into the league. And I met his sister many times, so from everyone at the league. But obviously, from me personally, my condolences to Shaq. He's probably not watching, but to his family, and I know for all of you, you're hurting because you're all so close to each other.
Yeah. Big fella, you hang in there, and we move on. It's going to be an awkward transition to talk about that, which is so personal, to talk about the business of the league, which since October 4th has been very different for you, Adam. Where were you when you got news of the tweet or saw the tweet from Daryl Morey?
I first learned of the tweet when I arrived in Tokyo. I had been in Mumbai, where the Pacers and Kings, we had a very successful outing. Our first 2 games ever on Indian soil, we played in Mumbai, and then I was leaving then to join the Rockets in Tokyo, and we had a 8.5 hour flight or so, and there was no Wi-Fi on the flight. And so when I landed in Tokyo, I learned about the tweet, and at that point, it had already been deleted.
When did you contact Daryl Morey?
Daryl was staying in the same hotel I was in. So when I landed, I had a bunch of emails and texts from people on the Rockets and people in the league office. And I went to the hotel. I met with the president of the team, Tad Brown. And Daryl, I didn't see initially. He was in his room. But we spoke at some point
And
early on.
what was the tenor of that? What did you say to Daryl Morey about the tweet that he put out there?
You know, I don't think it's appropriate to say specifically what I said to him, but at the point that I first spoke to Daryl, he had already deleted the tweet. Mm-hmm. So I would only say that, I mean, there was never a point when the league wasn't supportive of our values, of freedom of expression. That's something that long precedes me in the league. So there was no issue over that, but it was clear that there were going to be consequences. We had two other teams, the Lakers and the Nets, that were on the ground in Shanghai, and I was planning to join them in 3 days. So the issue, frankly, was less about Daryl at that moment and more about the two teams that we had on the ground in China.
But the league's initial response to that didn't indicate that. It was more of, this is regrettable. And you caught fire from all sides for that. If you had a do-over, Adam, what would the league's initial response been?
Well, I've said this already. I mean, if you know, and I think the tendency in this day and age is people can hardly get through an entire tweet, and right. We had more than a tweet. Our initial statement, what I said was regrettable, because we have hundreds of millions of fans in China, and it was absolutely clear we'd upset them. And the league's initial statement, it wasn't mine, but the league's initial statement was that while we regretted upsetting our fans in China, we fully supported freedom of expression by members of the NBA family. I feel that initial statement was twisted to be read as an apology for having said the specific content of that tweet, and that's not what we said. We're a platform. We're a U.S. company. We're a platform for freedom of expression. I don't think it's inconsistent at the same time to be respectful of the countries that we do business in and the countries that we play in. So maybe I tried to too carefully thread that needle, which is why 2 days later, I then, of course, issued another statement.
Exactly.
And made it absolutely clear to anyone that had any doubt that we fully supported freedom of expression in this league, and I don't take back any regret about upsetting people. As I said, respect is a core value of this league, and these two former greats have traveled the world with me. We've been not just to China, but all over the world. As I said, we just came from India, and I think it's part and parcel of doing business in other places in the world and spreading this game, that you're still respectful at the same time adhering to your values. And I just, let me finish by saying, I don't think trying to be diplomatic is inconsistent with those values.
3 weeks in now, after that original tweet, and today the Vice President, Mike Pence, brings up China and the NBA, and this is what he said.
And some of the NBA's biggest players and owners who routinely exercise their freedom to criticize this country lose their voices when it comes to the freedom and rights of the people of China. In siding with the Chinese Communist Party and silencing free speech, the NBA is acting like a wholly owned subsidiary of that authoritarian regime.
And Commissioner, your response to that?
My response is, as I've said, we've adhered to our core values from the first moment. To the extent that there was any doubt about that, we reinforced that those are our core values. And I'll just say, once again, we're going to double down on engaging with the people of China and India and throughout Africa, around the world, regardless of their governments. Certainly if we get to a point where the U.S. government tells us we shouldn't be doing business in certain territories or countries, we won't. But I'm a firm believer that through sports, independent of governments, you bring people together, they acknowledge that commonality, they create empathy, just in the way we began this show today, that through personal relationships, there's no substitute. And when this league for decades has been on the ground in China, spreading the game, teaching the values of this game. And again, I think those are core American values, and we've never wavered.
Well, let me say this. First of all, man, the Vice President Prince needs to shut the hell up, number one. All American companies are doing business in China. All American companies are doing business in China. I thought the criticism of Commissioner Silver and LeBron James was unfair. Listen, Daryl Morey, who I like, he can say whatever he wants to, but there are consequences. But I don't understand why these holier than thou politicians, if they so want to worry about China, why don't they stop all transactions with China? President Trump has been talking about and been arguing with tariffs for China for the last 2 years. But I think it's unfair for them to do all their business in China, and just because this thing happened, try to make the NBA and our players look bad. All American companies do business in China, period.
Well, I'm not going to speak for you, Adam, or speak for anyone else but myself, and just how I viewed it, and you could afterwards kind of see if that's correct or incorrect on how you view it. How I viewed it was, I'm glad that Vice President Pence had an opportunity to say what he is. That's the freedom that he has, to say what he wants to say and feel that way. In the same way Daryl Morey had the opportunity to do that. There's going to be conflicting messages. There's going to be conflicting things, especially when you're talking about possible social injustice when people feel that way. I don't see anything wrong with either party saying those things, but I think there has to be facts that back that up. So if you say that as Daryl Morey, you have to be factual. If you say that as Vice President Prince, you have to be factual, because what he said wasn't factual. Because from my point of view, from being in NBA for more than 4 decades, I look at it and go, well, that's the same as saying LeBron James couldn't speak about social issues here, and he has. And Carmelo Anthony and Chris Paul when they stood up and made those issues. The league has always been a proponent of that. From the players' social issues of free agency with Oscar Robertson. It's always been an ability to do that. And this is consistent with that, even if at times we all aren't in agreement. So I didn't see a silencing. I just saw a ability to use your platform as we always have. That's what I saw. And I don't know if that's accurate in your judgment.
I think it is. Freedom of expression also includes the right to choose not to speak. And I think these are complicated issues. And I think the fact that if you take particular players who've stood for important causes domestically, things that have been close to their heart, the fact that they may not be as knowledgeable about international issues and don't speak out on those issues, to me there's nothing inconsistent with the good works they've done in the United States. And I've always been the first to say to players about any issue, don't get trapped into talking about something that you don't feel you're knowledgeable about.
Yeah. Lastly for me on this, and we do want to move on to talk about the night that we have here in San Francisco. But Joe Tsai, the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, born in Taiwan, and says that, the hurt that's been done here will take a long time to heal. In what way can you explain to me and to the average basketball fan at home how the NBA has been hurt up to this point, and where are you in the healing process?
It's honestly, it's unclear, and it seems day to day. We are not back on Chinese Central Television. That's the government broadcaster in China, but we have a separate streaming service that we have a relationship with called Tencent, and we do have games back on Tencent. I think we all felt hurt for those of us who were there, the teams that were there. I mean, people saw those images on CNN and elsewhere. It was fairly dramatic to look out the hotel window and see giant billboards of NBA players being pulled down. And I think nobody's going to forget those images anytime soon. And so from a financial standpoint, I'm not sure. My hope is that it's somewhat still raw. I think in the NBA community in China as well, that we can work through it. I just step back and say that NBA first played in China in 1979, and we have roughly a 40-year history now of direct involvement. And I'm a firm believer that you can use basketball and all sports as a platform to bring people together. And given, I think the larger issue right now is the tension between the U.S. and China. That has absolutely nothing to do with the NBA. But so to me, we need sports and basketball more than ever as an opportunity to build bridges in the community. So so we'll see. It's too early to be specific.
So Adam, Commissioner.
Adam.
To me, this is a teaching moment. not just for general managers, but the players also. I hate social media. I will never use social media, but this is a teaching moment for, like I say, for Daryl and for all the players who use social media. You really have to be careful what you say today. We're in that situation. I mean, you see people getting in trouble for tweets they said when they were 15, 16 years old. But this is a teaching moment because every idiot and fool got an opinion now.
Yeah, just mean what you say and say what you mean.
Yeah, but no, Kenny, that sounds great.
Wait, no, my dad.
I understand that.
But my dad said to me, he said, very rarely, if you don't take a picture you don't want to see again.
Yeah.
Don't say anything that you don't want to hear again. And if you live by that kind of guideline, it will help you initiate what you really believe.
And that sounds good. But the bottom line is, everybody wants your opinion, but they only want your opinion if they agree with you. There's all kind of causes that we could get on TV or tweet about. It could start a national uproar. But I'm saying, we're in that situation now when you're a celebrity, and like any idiot or fool can say anything. But when you are a prominent person in today's society, there's people just waiting for you to say something, and you have to be careful.
Yeah, let's, in the couple minutes we have left here with you, Mr. Commissioner, this place we're at today, as basketball returns to San Francisco, and as they say, this is the first real sports arena built in San Francisco. And what does it mean to you tonight to be here for this?
It's an incredible occasion. I'd say a long time in planning, and I'm sure you guys have had the deluxe tour of this arena as well. It's state of the art in every possible way. I mean, to Joe Lacob, Peter Guber, and Rick Welts, who were the visionaries behind this, I think it's everything plus. I think the players are going to love it. Most importantly, there's a built-in practice facility here, and family rooms and media accommodations. I'm sure we'll be back here for an All-Star. I think from a league standpoint and for the community, it's a credible asset. Remember, for this community in San Francisco and the Bay Area, basketball will represent roughly, let's say, 50 nights with playoff games, but it'll be used 250 nights a year. It's going to be concerts, community events, graduations, political conventions. These truly are modern-day town halls, these arenas. I'm talking about speech. That's what these buildings are about. These are for people to come together and hear each other.
Right.
It's great.
We appreciate.
I'm just really glad that Alex. I want to give the Warriors kudos because, like I say, I think we've been professional owners been screwing the fans for 30 years, making taxpayers pay for these arenas. I got to give a shout out to the Warriors for doing their own thing and using their own money. Congratulations,
Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for taking the time today to be here with us. We appreciate it very much. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Clarity.
We will be coming back with